The lights flickered again. Commander Taesoon watched the emergency panels flash red across the command center of Station Vega 7. His thin, glowing body cast a soft blue light against the metal walls. He was a helix, a species that had evolved on a small moon with very weak gravity. His bones were light like bird bones. His skin was almost see-through. He could glow in the dark like a deep sea fish. Right now, his glow was dim. This happened when his kind felt fear. "Commander," said his communications officer, a young helix named Bora. "Sector 12 has fallen. The swarm has broken through the outer walls." Taesoon closed his large, dark eyes for a moment. The swarm. They were a nightmare given form. Millions of creatures that shared one mind. They did not talk. They did not negotiate. They only consumed. They moved from planet to planet, from station to station, eating everything in their path. Metal, plants, people. It did not matter to them. Station. Vega 7 was a research outpost at the edge of Coalition space. It held 3,000 souls, scientists, engineers, families, children. They had come here to study distant stars and ancient signals from dead civilizations. They had not come here to die, but death had found them anyway. "How long do we have?" Taesoon asked. His voice was calm even though his hearts were beating fast. He had two hearts. All Helix did. Bora checked her screens. Her glow was even dimmer than his. 42 hours. Maybe less. The inner shields will hold for a while, but the swarm learns. They adapt. Every hour, they find new ways through our defenses. Taesoon walked to the main window. Outside, he could see the battle. Small coalition ships were fighting against clouds of swarm creatures. The creatures looked like insects made of black metal. They had sharp legs and sharper teeth. They could survive in the vacuum of space. They could chew through steel. A coalition fighter exploded in a ball of orange fire. Taesoon did not look away. That pilot had been someone's friend, someone's child. Now they were gone. "Send a message to Coalition Command," Taesoon said. "Priority Alpha. We need reinforcements. We need soldiers. Anyone who can fight." Bora's fingers moved across her panel. "Commander, Coalition forces are spread across 12 star systems right now. The war with the swarm is happening everywhere. I do not think anyone will come. Send the message anyway. We cannot give up. Not while there are still people alive on this station." The message went out at the speed of light, bouncing through relay stations and wormhole transmitters. It traveled across the darkness of space until it reached the Coalition Command Center on a world called Haven. Admiral Yuna read the message 3 times. She was also a helix, but older than Taesoon. Her glow was white instead of blue, a sign of her many years. She had commanded fleets. She had won battles. She had also lost them. She knew the weight of impossible choices. "Vega 7 is requesting immediate reinforcements," said her aide, a small furry creature named Pip from a species that lived underground. "They have 42 hours before total station failure." Yuna looked at the holographic map floating above her desk. Red dots covered it like a disease. Each dot was a swarm attack. There were so many now. "Too many. What do we have available?" she asked. Pip checked his tablet. "Nothing, Admiral. All combat units are engaged. The 3rd Fleet is defending the core worlds. The 7th Fleet is protecting the evacuation of Myra Colony. Even our reserve forces have been deployed. There must be something. Someone." Pip was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke very carefully. "There is one option, but you will not like it. Tell me." "The humans. The species from Sol 3. They joined the Coalition 6 months ago. They have a small military unit stationed at Luna Base. 31 soldiers. Una felt her glow flicker. She had read the reports about humans. Everyone in the coalition had read them. The reports were disturbing. Earth, the human home world, was classified as a Category 5 death world. This was the highest danger rating possible. The planet had extreme gravity that crushed and pulled at everything on its surface. It had wild temperature changes, from burning heat to freezing cold. It had storms that could flatten cities. It had thousands of species of predators with claws and teeth and venom. And somehow, humans had not only survived on this terrible world, they had conquered it. They had become the apex predators of an entire planet, designed to kill them. The report said humans could run for hours without stopping. They said humans could survive injuries that would kill any other coalition species. They said humans ate the flesh of other animals and sometimes plants that were poisonous to everyone else. They said humans had once hunted prey by simply following it until it collapsed from exhaustion. They said humans were afraid of nothing. They are untested, Una said. We have never seen them fight in a real battle. True, Pip agreed. But Commander Taesung asked for anyone who can fight. The humans can fight. That is certain? Una stared at the map. The red dot that was Vega 7 blinked slowly, like a dying heartbeat. 3,000 souls. Scientists. Engineers. Families. Children. She thought about what might happen if she sent humans into combat. They were new to the galactic community. They did not fully understand coalition law or coalition customs. They were loud and strange, and they smiled by showing their teeth, which was a threat display for most species, but they were also brave. The reports agreed on this. Humans were impossibly, foolishly, wonderfully brave. Contact Luna Base, Una said finally. Tell the humans we need their help. Tell them there are civilians in danger. Tell them. She paused. Tell them the truth. Tell them we have no one else to send. Pip nodded and hurried away to send the message. Una turned back to the map. She watched the red dot of Vega 7 continue to blink. She hoped she had made the right choice. She hoped the humans were as strong as the report said, because if they were not, 3,000 people would die, and it would be her fault. The message traveled through space, through relay stations and wormhole gates, until it reached a small gray moon orbiting a blue and green planet. Luna Base, home of the 1st Terran Expeditionary Unit. Lieutenant James Park was eating lunch when the call came in. He put down his sandwich and read the message on his tablet. His face did not change expression. He read it again. Then he stood up and walked to the barracks. Listen up, he said to his soldiers. We just got our first mission. A station called Vega 7 is under attack. 3,000 civilians. 42 hours until the station falls. We are the only reinforcements available. Sergeant Hannah Kim looked up from cleaning her rifle. What are we fighting? Something called the Swarm, hive mind species. Think army ants, but the size of dogs and made of metal, and they can survive in space. The room was quiet for a moment. Then Corporal David Lee smiled. It was not a nice smile. When do we leave? 1 hour. Pack for war. The soldiers moved. They checked weapons. They loaded ammunition. They said quiet prayers and wrote quick letters home. In 1 hour. They would board a transport ship. In 2 days. They would arrive at Station Vega-7. And nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same. The transport ship Gentle Dawn was not built for humans. It was built for Helix, for creatures with hollow bones and bodies that weighed almost nothing. The seats were too small. The ceilings were too low. The food was gray paste that tasted like wet cardboard. The humans did not complain. They sat in the tiny seats with their knees pressed against their chests. They hit their heads on doorways and pretended it did not hurt. They ate the gray paste and made jokes about military food being the same everywhere in the universe. Lieutenant James Park spent most of the trip studying the enemy, the swarm. He watched videos of previous battles. He read reports from survivors. There were not many survivors. The swarm did not use guns or bombs. They used teeth and claws in overwhelming numbers. They attacked in waves, thousands at a time, crawling over walls and ceilings. They could cut through metal armor in seconds. They could survive in fire, in ice, in the vacuum of space. They did not feel fear. They did not retreat. They only advanced. Park watched a video of a swarm creature tearing through a steel door like it was paper. The creature was the size of a large dog. It had 6 legs, each ending in a blade. Its head was mostly mouth, filled with teeth that could bite through bone. "Ugly little things," said Sergeant Hannah Kim, looking over his shoulder. "They are not little," Park said. "And there are millions of them." Kim shrugged. "Then we will need more ammunition." This was how humans dealt with fear. They made jokes. They pretended they were not scared. Inside, they were terrified. But they had learned long ago that fear was not a reason to stop. Fear was just another feeling, like hunger or tiredness. You acknowledged it and kept moving. The trip took 2 days. 2 days of cramped spaces and bad food and worry. 2 days of checking weapons and reviewing tactics and trying not to think about what waited for them. On the morning of the 3rd day, Station Vega 7 appeared on the VIEWSCREEN. It was a massive structure, a wheel of metal and glass spinning slowly in the darkness. Parts of it were on fire. Other parts were dark, the power already dead. Small ships flew around it like angry bees, fighting against clouds of swarm creatures. "That is a lot of bugs," said Private Daniel Kwan, staring at the screen. "More than I expected," Park admitted. "But the mission does not change. We get to the station. We find the civilians. We hold the line until evacuation ships arrive." "How long until evacuation ships arrive?" asked Specialist Grace Hong. Park was quiet for a moment. Command did not say. Everyone understood what that meant. Maybe the evacuation ships would come in hours. Maybe days. Maybe never. It did not matter. They had a job to do. The Gentle Dawn docked at the station's last working hangar bay. The airlock hissed open, releasing air that smelled like smoke and fear. Commander Taesung stood waiting with his officers. They were all Helix, all glowing softly in the dim emergency lighting. Park was the first human through the door. Taesung had read the reports about humans. He thought he was prepared. He was wrong. The human was tall, almost 2 meters. His body was thick with muscle, wrapped in dark armor that looked heavy, enough to crush a Helix. He moved with a smooth grace that seemed wrong for someone so large, like watching a predator stalk through tall grass. His eyes scanned the room once, twice, 3 times, checking corners and shadows and exits. Those eyes. Taesung would remember those eyes for the rest of his life. They were brown, ordinary looking, but something lurked behind them. Something old. Something hungry. The eyes of a creature that had spent millions of years learning how to kill. More humans followed. Each one was different, but they all shared that same quality. That alertness. That barely contained energy. They looked at the Helix the way a wolf might look at rabbits. Park stopped in front of Taesung and extended his hand. Taesung flinched back before he could stop himself. He had read that this was a greeting ritual, but instinct screamed at him that an extended hand meant attack. "Easy," Park said, his voice gentle. "It is a handshake. A greeting. It means I am not holding a weapon." Slowly, carefully, Taesung reached out and touched the human's hand. The skin was warm, almost hot. The grip was firm but controlled. Tae-soon could feel the strength in those fingers. The human could crush his hand like an egg if he wanted to, but he did not want to. That was the important thing. "I am Lieutenant James Park," the human said. "First Terran Expeditionary Unit. We are here to help. I am Commander Tae-soon. Thank you for coming. I did not think anyone would. We received the message. 3,000 civilians in danger. That was all we needed to hear." Behind Tae-soon, his second-in-command made a strange sound. Ro was a crystalline being, a species that grew in caves and communicated through vibrations. Right now, Ro was vibrating at a very high frequency. This meant extreme distress. "Is your officer all right?" Park asked. Tae-soon turned to look. Ro was staring at Sergeant Kim, who had casually picked up a cargo crate that had been blocking the corridor. The crate weighed at least 400 kilograms. Kim held it with one arm while checking her tablet with the other. "Where do you want this?" Kim asked. No one answered. Everyone was too busy staring. Kim shrugged and set the crate down gently. "Never mind. I will put it here." Ro made another sound, higher this time. Tae-soon thought the crystalline officer might actually crack from stress. "Your people," Tae-soon said slowly. "They are very strong." "Average," Park said. "Sergeant Kim lifts weights for fun. You should see her when she's actually trying." Tae-soon did not want to see that. He did not want to imagine what these creatures could do when they were actually trying. The humans spread out through the hangar, checking equipment and asking questions. Corporal David Lee examined the station's defensive weapons and shook his head. Private Emily Choi looked at the medical supplies and frowned. Corporal Michael Yoon tested the communication systems and sighed. "Your defenses are weak," Park said. It was not an insult, just a fact. "The swarm will break through within hours." "We know," Tae-soon said. "We have been fighting for days. We are tired. We are running out of supplies. We have done everything we can." Park nodded. He looked at his soldiers. They looked back at him. Something passed between them, a silent conversation that Tae-soon could not read. "Show us the most important areas," Park said. "The civilian shelters, the power generators, the life support systems. We will build new defensive lines." "How?" "We do not have enough soldiers. We do not have enough weapons." Park smiled. It was a small smile, but it showed his teeth. Tae-soon had to remind himself that this was not a threat display. "You have us now," Park said. 31 soldiers might not seem like much, but we are not like other soldiers." "What do you mean?" Park turned to face the commander fully. His brown eyes were calm and steady. "We are humans, Commander. We come from a world that tried to kill us every single day for millions of years. We survived ice ages and plagues and predators with claws longer than your arm. We hunted mammoths with sticks. We crossed oceans in wooden boats. We split the atom and walked on our own moon." He paused. "The swarm is scary. I will not lie about that. But we have faced scary things before. We have faced extinction before. And we are still here." Tae-soon felt something strange in his chest. It took him a moment to recognize it. Hope. For the first time in days, he felt hope. "Follow me," he said. "I will show you the station." The humans gathered their weapons and their supplies. They moved like a pack of predators, smooth and silent and deadly. And somewhere in the darkness of the station, the swarm waited. It did not know what was coming. It would learn. The first attack came 6 hours after the humans arrived. A section of wall in Corridor 9 exploded inward. Swarm creatures poured through the gap like water through a broken dam. There were hundreds of them, climbing over each other, their metal legs scraping against the floor. The coalition soldiers stationed there panicked. They fired their pulse weapons, but the shots were wild and scared. Several of them turned to run. Private Daniel Kwan did not run. He stood in the middle of the corridor, rifle raised, and started shooting. Each shot was calm. Each shot was aimed. Each shot hit something. "Form a line," he shouted. "Stand with me." Some of the coalition soldiers stopped running. They saw this human, this strange creature from a death world, standing alone against the flood of monsters. They saw him not running. They saw him fighting. Slowly they moved back to his side. "Good," Kwan said. "Now aim for the eyes." They do not like that. The battle lasted 11 minutes. Kwan fired until his rifle barrel glowed white-hot from the heat. When the rifle jammed, he used it as a club, swinging it in wide arcs that crushed swarm skulls. When the rifle broke, he pulled out his knife. By the time reinforcements arrived, Kwan was covered in black swarm blood. He was breathing hard. His hands were shaking, but he was alive, and the corridor was clear. "You are injured," said a Helix medic, pointing at a gash on Kwan's arm. Kwan looked at it like he had not noticed. "Just a scratch." "Got any tape?" The medic wrapped the wound in confusion. The cut was deep enough to see muscle. A Helix would be in the medical bay for days with such an injury. Kwan just flexed his arm, nodded, and asked where the next fight was. This was only the beginning. Over the next 20 hours, the humans showed the coalition what Deathworlders could do. Private Emily Choi stayed awake for 36 hours straight. She ran from crisis to crisis, fixing broken power lines and patching hull breaches and treating wounded soldiers. When a Helix doctor expressed concern about her health, she laughed. "I once stayed awake for 4 days during finals week in college," she said. "This is nothing. But your body," the doctor said. "The stress hormones. The damage to your cells. Yeah, it is not great for you long term. But short term? We can push through almost anything. Sleep is optional when people are dying." The doctor did not understand. His species needed 8 hours of sleep every night, or they would literally die. The idea of choosing not to sleep was like choosing not to breathe. Corporal Michael Yoon lost 2 fingers to a plasma discharge during a skirmish at Junction 7. The energy bolt hit his hand while he was reloading, burning through flesh and bone in an instant. He looked at his ruined hand. He took a deep breath. Then, he wrapped the wound in bandages, swallowed 2 painkillers, and returned to his position. "You cannot fight," Commander Tae-sung said, horrified. "You need surgery. You need recovery time." "Surgery can wait," Yoon said. "The swarm cannot." He fought for another 4 hours before Lieutenant Park ordered him to the medical bay. Even then, he argued, the Helix doctors examined him in disbelief. The wound was terrible, but the human's vital signs were stable. His body had already started the healing process. Blood flow to the damaged area had slowed. Clotting factors were sealing the wound. White blood cells were fighting infection. "Your body," one doctor said. "It repairs itself so quickly." "Standard human healing," Yoon said with a shrug. "We are hard to kill." The most disturbing lesson came from specialist Grace Hong Dot. She was explaining human biology to a group of coalition technicians when a swarm creature burst through a ventilation shaft. The creature lunged at the technicians, who screamed and fell backward. Hong moved without thinking. Her heart rate spiked. Her pupils dilated. Her muscles tensed with sudden strength. She grabbed the creature by its throat and slammed it against the wall, so hard that the metal dented. The creature struggled. Hong squeezed harder. There was a crack, and the creature went limp. When it was over, Hong was shaking. Her hands were bloody. Her chest was heaving. The technicians stared at her in absolute terror. "What happened to you?" one of them asked. "Your eyes changed. Your whole body changed. You became something else." Hong took a moment to catch her breath. Adrenaline, she said finally. What is adrenaline? A chemical our bodies make when we are scared or angry. It makes us faster, stronger. It blocks pain. It lets us do things we normally could not do. The technician translator struggled with the concept. Your body has a built-in combat drug? It is not a drug. Well, technically, it is a hormone. But yes, when humans face danger, our bodies pump out adrenaline automatically. Fight or flight response. It is how we survived on Earth. Survived what? Hong smiled grimly. Everything, lions, bears, other humans. Our planet was not kind to us. So our bodies learned to turn fear into fuel. The technician looked at the dead swarm creature on the ground. Then at Hong's bloody hands. Then at her face, which was slowly returning to normal as the adrenaline faded. The technician fainted. Hong caught them before they hit the ground. That happens a lot, she muttered. Meanwhile, Sergeant Hannah Kim had started training sessions with willing coalition soldiers. She taught them hand-to-hand combat, the brutal close-quarters fighting that humans had developed over thousands of years. Most of the alien soldiers could not perform the movements. Their bodies were too fragile. Their bones would break under the strain. But some of the tougher species could learn, and Kim was patient. The key is to use your enemy's strength against them, she explained. You do not have to be stronger. You just have to be smarter. She demonstrated by throwing Corporal Lee across the room. Lee hit the mat hard, rolled, and came up laughing. She's been doing that to me since basic training, he said. You get used to it. The coalition soldiers did not look like they would ever get used to it. Commander Tae-soon watched all of this from his command center. He watched the reports come in. Private Kwan holding a corridor alone. Private Choi working without sleep. Corporal Yoon fighting with a ruined hand. Specialist Hong killing a swarm creature with her bare hands. They are not soldiers, said his second command row. They are weapons. Living weapons. Tae-soon shook his head slowly. No, they are survivors. That is what they are. They come from a world that tried to destroy them, and instead of dying, they became stronger. Every challenge they faced made them harder to kill. Are you not afraid of them? Tae-soon considered the question. He thought about Lieutenant Park's calm eyes. He thought about Sergeant Kim's patient instruction. He thought about the way the humans always checked on the coalition wounded first, before treating their own injuries. No, he said finally. I am not afraid of them. I am afraid of what they had to become to survive. I am afraid of what their world must have been like, to create creatures such as these. He paused. But most of all, I am grateful. Grateful that they came. Grateful that they fight for us. Grateful that these Deathworlders chose to be our allies instead of our enemies. Outside the command center, the station shook as another swarm attack began. Alarms wailed. Lights flickered. And somewhere in the corridors, humans were running toward the danger, not away from it, because that was what Deathworlders did. They faced the monsters, and they won. The final assault came on the third day. Lieutenant Park knew it was coming. He had studied the swarm's patterns. They probed defenses first, testing for weak points. Then they gathered their numbers. Then they attacked with everything they had. The station's sensors showed a massive wave approaching. Thousands of swarm creatures, maybe tens of thousands, moving through the damaged outer sections like a black tide. This is it, Park said over the communication channel. They are making their final push. If they break through, they reach the civilian shelters. 3,000 people. Families. Children. His. Soldiers answered from positions across the station. We will hold, said Sergeant Kim. Ready and waiting, said Corporal Lee. Let them come, said Private Kwan. Park looked at the tactical display. The humans were spread thin, covering the most critical points. They had coalition soldiers with them, but everyone knew the truth. If the line broke, it would be because the humans fell first. Corridor 7 is the key, Park said. If they take that, they have a straight path to the shelters. I want our strongest position there. I will take it, Kim said immediately. Negative. I am taking Corridor 7 myself. Kim, you have Corridor 3. Lee, Junction 5. Everyone else, hold your positions and watch for flanking moves. There was a moment of silence on the channel. Sir, Kim said carefully, Corridor 7 is where they will hit hardest. Let me take it. That is exactly why I am taking it. I am not asking my people to do something I would not do myself. Kim did not argue further. She knew Park well enough to know when his mind was made up. Park gathered his team for Corridor 7. Private Emily Choi. Corporal Michael Yoon with his bandaged hand. Private Daniel Kwan. Specialist Grace Hong. 4 others. 9 humans in total, plus a dozen coalition soldiers who had volunteered to stand with them. They built barricades from metal crates and broken equipment. They set up firing positions behind cover. They checked their weapons one last time. When I was a kid, Kwan said, breaking the silence, I was scared of spiders. Seriously? Hong asked. You held a corridor alone against hundreds of swarm creatures, and you were scared of spiders? They have too many legs. It is creepy. The swarm has 6 legs. Yeah, but they are too big to be creepy. They are just scary. There's a difference. The soldiers laughed. It was not happy laughter. It was the kind of laughter that came before battle. The kind that said we might die soon, so we might as well enjoy this moment. The lights flickered. The floor began to vibrate. Here they come, Park said quietly. The first wave hit like a hammer. Swarm creatures poured out of every opening, climbing walls, dropping from ceilings, flooding the corridor with black bodies and sharp legs. The humans opened fire. The sound was deafening. Human weapons did not shoot energy pulses like coalition guns. They shot metal projectiles at incredible speeds, tearing through swarm armor like paper. The first line of creatures fell. The second line climbed over them. The third line pushed forward. Keep firing, Park shouted. Don't let them advance. But there were too many. For every swarm creature that fell, 3 more took its place. The black tide crept closer, meter by meter, pushing against the wall of human firepower. Choi ran out of ammunition first. She dropped her rifle and pulled out a pistol. When the pistol was empty, she grabbed a metal pipe from the barricade and swung it at anything that came close. Yoon's injured hand finally gave out. His grip failed and his rifle clattered to the ground. He did not stop fighting. He picked up a piece of broken machinery and used it as a club, smashing swarm creatures with his one good hand. Kwan took a hit to the leg. The swarm creature's blade cut deep into his thigh, spraying blood across the floor. He stumbled but did not fall. He shot the creature point blank, then kept shooting even as his leg screamed in pain. Hong was grabbed by 2 swarm creatures at once. They pulled at her arms, trying to tear her apart. She screamed with fury, not fear, and brought her head down in a vicious strike. Her helmet crushed one creature's face. The other creature she killed with her bare hands, just like before. The coalition soldiers were dying. Their bodies could not take the punishment that humans could. One by one, they fell. But they did not run. They had watched the humans fight. They had learned what courage looked like. They died standing. We are losing ground. Someone shouted. Park looked at the situation. The barricade was failing. His people were injured. The swarm was too many. There was only one option left. Everyone, Park said calmly. We are going to charge. What? Choi gasped. On my signal, we push forward. We go right into them. We make them afraid of us. Sir, that is insane. Yes, that is why it might work. Park gripped his rifle. His hands were steady. His heart was pounding, but his hands were steady. Remember, he said, humans did not become apex predators by running away. We became apex predators by making everything else run away from us. The swarm does not know fear. Let us teach them. He took a breath. Charge. The humans surged forward. It was madness. It was suicide. It was the most human thing they could have done. They ran into the mass of swarm creatures, firing and slashing and punching and biting. Yes, biting. Corporal Lee bit a swarm creature that got too close, tearing off one of its legs with his teeth and spitting it out. The swarm had never experienced anything like this. Every species they had fought before had retreated when overwhelmed. Every species had tried to escape, to survive, to flee. The humans did the opposite. The humans attacked harder. The humans got more dangerous when cornered, not less. For the first time in its existence, the hive mind felt something new. Something it did not understand. Hesitation. The creatures in the back of the wave stopped pushing forward. The creatures in the front tried to retreat, but the humans would not let them. The humans chased them, hunted them, killed them as they tried to flee. Keep going, Park roared. Push them back. And somehow, impossibly, they did. The swarm wave broke. Creatures fled in all directions, their coordination shattered by panic. The hive mind tried to regain control, but the fear was spreading. Every creature that died screaming sent that fear to every other creature. The attack collapsed. When it was over, Corridor 7 was filled with swarm bodies. The walls were painted black with alien blood. The floor was slippery with it. 9 humans stood in the middle of the carnage. They were bleeding. They were broken. But they were standing. Park lowered his rifle. His arms were shaking from exhaustion. His throat was raw from screaming. Sound off, he said hoarsely. Alive, Choi said. Alive, Yoon said. Alive, Kwon said, leaning against a wall to keep his injured leg from collapsing. One by one, the others answered. All 9 humans were still breathing. The coalition soldiers had not been so lucky. Only 4 of the 12 survived. But those 4 would never forget what they had seen. They would tell the story for the rest of their lives. They would tell their children and their children's children the story of the day the humans charged into certain death, and death blinked. First, Park looked at his soldiers, his family, his pack. Good work, he said simply. Now let us get these wounds treated. The fight is not over yet. But they all knew the truth. The hard part was done. The swarm had broken against them like waves against a rock. The rock had won. The evacuation ships arrived 18 hours after the final assault. By then, the swarm had retreated completely. The creatures that survived fled into the darkness of space, their hive mind scarred by something it had never experienced before. Defeat. Real, undeniable defeat at the hands of creatures that should have been easy prey. Station Vega 7 was badly damaged but still standing. The lights flickered. The air recyclers groaned. But life support held, and the civilians were safe. Commander Taesung stood in the hangar bay and watched the evacuation proceed. Families walked past him, carrying children and personal belongings. Scientists clutched data drives containing years of research. Engineers looked back at the station they had built, knowing they would never see it again. 3,000 souls. All of them alive because of 31 strangers from a distant world. Lieutenant Park approached the commander. He moved slowly. His body was covered in bandages, and dark circles hung under his eyes. But he was still walking, still standing. The evacuation is proceeding smoothly, Park reported. My team is helping with the heavy lifting, literally. Taesoon watched Private Kwan carry two elderly Helix on his shoulders while limping on his injured leg. The young soldier was laughing about something, making the old alien smile despite everything they had been through. "You saved us," Taesoon said. "All of us. How can we ever repay you?" Park shook his head. "You do not owe us anything. This is what we do. This is what humans have always done." "What do you mean?" "We protect people. It is in our nature. Back on Earth, we have a saying, 'No one left behind.' It means we do not abandon anyone, even strangers, even people we have never met. If someone needs help, we help them. Simple as that." Taesoon did not know what to say. His species had complex rules about obligation and debt. The idea of helping someone simply because they needed help, with no expectation of reward, was strange to him. But looking at these humans, these wonderful and terrifying creatures, he began to understand. "How many of your people did we lose?" he asked quietly. Park's expression changed. The calm mask cracked just a little, showing the grief underneath. "8, he said. 8 soldiers dead. We will be taking them home with us." Taesoon saw the humans carrying their fallen. They had wrapped the bodies carefully in clean cloth. They moved with slow, respectful steps, their heads bowed. "In my culture," Taesoon said, "we dissolve our dead and return them to the soil of our homeworld." "What do humans do?" "Different things. Some of us bury our dead. Some burn them. Some send them into space. But we always bring them home first. We never leave our people behind. Not even the ones who cannot walk anymore." Sergeant Kim supervised the loading of the bodies onto the transport ship. Her face was stone, but her eyes were wet. These had been her friends, her family, her brothers and sisters in arms. "I knew them all," she said when Park joined her. Private Tom Anderson, Private Lisa Chung, Corporal Stephen Wright. She spoke each name like a prayer. They were good soldiers. "Good people. They died well," Park said. "Is there such a thing as dying well?" "Yes, dying to protect others. Dying on your feet instead of your knees. Dying for something that matters." Park put his hand on her shoulder. "They bought time for 3,000 people to survive. That matters." Kim nodded slowly. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "Let us go home," she said, far away, on the planet Haven. Admiral Yuna stood before the Coalition Council. The chamber was vast and circular, filled with representatives from hundreds of species. They had come to hear her report about the humans. "Station Vega 7 has been evacuated," Yuna announced. All 3,000 civilians survived. The swarm attack was repelled with minimal casualties. "Minimal casualties?" one council member asked. "What were the losses?" 47 coalition soldiers, 8 human soldiers. The chamber murmured. 47 soldiers to defend an entire station against a swarm assault was remarkably low. Usually such attacks resulted in total loss. "Tell us about the humans," another council member said. "We have heard rumors. Stories that sound impossible." Yuna nodded. She activated a holographic display showing footage from the battle. The council watched in silence as humans held corridors alone, fought with terrible injuries, and charged into overwhelming enemy forces. "They are Deathworlders," Yuna said when the footage ended. "They evolved on a planet that tried to kill them every single day. They are stronger than us, faster than us, more durable than us. They can survive wounds that would kill any of our species. They feel pain, but they can ignore it. They feel fear, but they can overcome it. Are they a threat to us?" Asked a council member from a species of tall, thin beings with too many joints. It was the question everyone wanted to ask. The question that hung over the entire conversation. Yuna took her time before answering. "They could be. she said honestly. If the humans wanted to conquer the galaxy, they could probably do it. They have the strength. They have the will. They have the numbers. The chamber fell silent. But they do not want to conquer, Yuna continued. They want to belong. They want to be part of something bigger than themselves. They crossed the stars not to destroy, but to explore. They answered our call for help not because they wanted something from us, but because people were in danger. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of every species representative. The humans are dangerous. I will not lie about that. But dangerous does not mean evil. Fire is dangerous. Electricity is dangerous. Medicine is dangerous. All tools are dangerous in the wrong hands. She paused. The question is not whether we should fear the humans. The question is whether we should trust them. And after what I saw at Station Vega 7, after watching them bleed and die for strangers they had never met, I believe we can. The council debated for hours. In the end, they voted to expand the alliance with humanity. They voted to invite human soldiers into the coalition military. They voted to trust the Deathworlders. It was the beginning of a new era. Back on Station Vega 7, the last evacuation ship was preparing to depart. The humans were already aboard their transport, ready for the long journey home, but Sergeant Kim had not yet boarded. She was sitting in a corner of the damaged hangar, next to a young Helix child. The child's name was Sora. She was 7 years old. Kim had pulled her from the rubble during the final assault, carrying her to safety while fighting off swarm creatures with one hand. Sora's parents had died in the first attack, before the humans arrived. She had no other family. She was alone. The child's glow was weak and flickering, a sign of deep trauma. She had not spoken since Kim found her. She just stared at nothing, her large dark eyes empty. Kim did not speak either. She just sat beside the child, her presence warm and steady. Sometimes that was all you could do. Sometimes words did not help. Sometimes you just had to be there. An hour passed. Then another. Finally, Sora moved. She leaned against Kim's arm, pressing her small, glowing body against the human's warmth. "You saved me," Sora whispered. It was the first thing she had said in days. "Yes," Kim said simply. "Why?" Kim thought about it. She thought about the 8 soldiers they had lost. She thought about the fear and the pain and the endless fighting. She thought about everything that had happened since they arrived at this station. "Because that is what we do," she said finally. "We protect people who cannot protect themselves. We fight for those who cannot fight. We never leave anyone behind." Sora was quiet for a moment. "Will you leave me behind?" Kim looked down at the child. This small, fragile creature who had lost everything. This orphan who had no one left in the entire galaxy. "No," Kim said. Her voice was firm. "I will not leave you behind." Lieutenant Park found them there an hour later. He saw Kim holding the child, and he understood immediately. "The adoption process will be complicated," he said. "I do not care about complicated." Park nodded. "I know. I will help with the paperwork." The transport ship departed Station Vega 7 as the star rose over the damaged hull. Inside, the surviving humans sat with their injured and their dead. They were quiet. They were tired. But they were going home. Sor fell asleep in Kim's arms, her glow finally steady for the first time since the attack. Corporal Lee looked out the window at the shrinking station. "Think they will call us again?" he asked. Park nodded slowly. "Yes, I think they will. And we will answer?" Park thought about his soldiers, his family, the 8 they had lost and the 23 who remained. He thought about the coalition and its hundreds of species, all of them watching humanity with new eyes. He thought about Sora, the little Helix child who was now part of their family. "We will always answer," Park said. "That is who we are." That is who we have always been. When someone calls for help, humans answer. No matter the cost, no matter the distance, no matter the danger. He looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the swarm was regrouping. Somewhere out there, new threats were rising. Somewhere out there, other stations and colonies would face the same terror that Vega 7 had faced, but they would not face it alone. Not anymore. The humans had arrived, and they were not going anywhere.